The battle for Alexander's throne is on the field, and today the Seleucids and the remnants of Macedon will fight to claim a said throne. Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Jackie Fish, and welcome back to another Total War Dividi et Impera online battle. Today we are diving into just a little 1v1, but this one should be super excited because these are some very, very good players, so I can't wait to see what they will go ahead and bring out. We will go ahead and stick the game on slow-mo as the forces do rush towards one another, and as you can see on the right hand side we have Macedon, and on the left we have the Seleucids. The funds were around about 22k, so both players should be able to bring a solid baseline of whatever they want, along with some fairly lower tier units to go ahead and supplement that. But Dividi et Impera does such an amazing job at low tier units that, you know, they can be so useful in battles. So if we take a look at the Mustang Army on the front line, they do have 4 units of these just basic low tier archers. Again, just some missile support to kind of whittle down anything that they kind of really need to deal with. On their front line, they do have a solid force of these bronze shield pikemen. Macedon and their pikes are extremely deadly, some of the best in the game, so not a bad unit there. Behind that, we do have some light Greek infantry, so just a maneuverable unit. Behind that, we do have some of the heavier, but still also kind of low quality Furios spearmen, so again, a nice little supplement to that light tier. And then on the extreme far flanks, we do have some heavy shot cavalry. They spend a lot on this late sacred band, and then we also have some Thessalonican Hypassus, but obviously the general unit. There's 200 horses in a unit. The Macedonian general is absolutely wild, really obviously taking back remnants of Alexander, and we have the exact same on the other flank. Then for the Seleucids, on their far right flank, we do have 2 units of this medium shot cavalry, the Hypassus, getting themselves stuck in. And then again on the extreme right flank, we do have another 2 units. So yeah, similar cavalry. So it does mean, but I feel like the cavalry force for the Seleucids is definitely going to be a little bit undermined, but obviously they would have spent their money elsewhere. On their front line, they do have 5 units of these Greek archers. So again, these are going to be a similar missile force, but I think these ones are maybe a little bit more armored, or maybe they're just exactly the same. Yeah, they're literally the same. So just an extra unit of archers there. Then as we go further back, we do have 2 units of these Furios spearmen, supported by the silver shields of the Seleucid Empire. So again, just some of the best infantry in the game right here. And then on the right flank, we got another couple units there. And then finally some Furios swordsmen. So much more aggressive a build for the Seleucids in the infantry. And it's going to make for a very interesting fight, I think, as the archer fire does now begin. Just due to the simple fact of the pikemen for Macedon. If Macedon can obviously get their pikes and engage in that traditional way, they're clearly going to win. But the Seleucids have brought a very dynamic build, a build that will allow them to be very maneuverable. Right now as well, we are seeing heavy focus fire on this central unit by all the Macedonian archers as the infantry continues to move up. Javelin fire from both sides lobbing off as the Furios expend their ammunition with some additional archer fire right here. Again, both sides really trying to kind of claim that missile advantage early on. It's super important for the Seleucids to win this missile off so they can then start to take down some of these pikemen. We are seeing a unit of silver shields being thrown up as well. It's not the unit I wanted to zoom to. We're seeing a unit of silver shields being brought up to obviously unleash them javelin volleys off onto the Macedonian pikemen. And, oh no, actually deciding to maybe go in off on the archers, actually. Interesting. I'm not sure if that's like, I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? Try and break them archers. But I would assume also killing these pikemen would be very important. And as you can probably guess in this battle, the Seleucids are not going to engage any of these 3 pikemen from the front. They're going to basically just ignore them and leave this big gap and then really put pressure down on the flanks, wait until these guys have to move in. Oh, and we are seeing an over push here on the cavalry side of things. The heavy general is charging in. Luckily, these Thessalonican Hypassus are now engaging in that diamond formation, but that general is going to be able to completely envelop them right off the bat and get themselves stuck in. Yeah, I mean, the charge was pretty even right now. We also got some javelin fire from the Seleucids turning in, trying to kill that Macedonian general, which again is not a bad idea. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see more infantry just being committed because the Macedonian line is super, super slow. Also, a huge misplay right here. What the hell are these archers doing? Oh my god, such a big miss micro. I assume the player was heavily focusing on that right flank and the cavalry, but that's really going to cost him, losing pretty much a large amount of his archers for nothing right there. We also get our first little engagement right here as the medium melee infantry, the Agrian Axemen, get themselves stuck in against the Furios. The Axemen are actually really good at armor piercing in this battle, so it's going to be interesting to see how they do against a lighter infantry like the Furios, who aren't necessarily as heavily armored, but still are a decent unit. I believe both units also do have... No, actually, the Furios have 300 men in their unit. The Agrian Axemen have 200, so a little bit of quality. There's quantity there. But again, the 300-man units are always so useful because they just pin your opponent down in place. And because units take so long to go anywhere into VDS Impera, it's great to do that. We're also getting some big cavalry engagements. I can only imagine the Macedonian cavalry is going to clean this right flank up. As it is severely superior. They obviously have that heavier, this cavalry right here, the late Sacred Squadron, obviously the companion cavalry. Like, I can only imagine this cavalry will shred through the Thessalonians of the Seleucids. However, this is something you always have to be cautious of, because the Macedonian player has decided to push the cavalry fight behind the Seleucid lines. As you can see, the Seleucids can now commit more cavalry to this fight. And as you can see, the spearmen are about to turn up. You're going to get some reinforcements there. And just in true Greek fashion, this is going to take down some pretty heavy casualties as the Macedonians do try and pull out of that. I mean, look at that. They already lost, 4 or 5 horses. And yeah, look at that number just dropping. They get slaughtered as they try and pull out of that engagement. And that's just the punishment of taking the engagement like that. And as you can see, the battle is turning out exactly like I said it would. The Seleucid player is just ignoring this front line. You can normally use this to your advantage and then kind of like open up avenues to push for infantry, and then use that to outflank and do other stuff like that. But right now, they're using this very, very effectively as the cavalry comes in. A beautiful charge right there, routing the Seleucid cavalry, sending them back, and also getting a nice little charge off there onto the Silver Shields. However, again, they're going to use a handful of horses when they have to pull out of this engagement. Right now, what they need to do is they need to kind of wrap around this cavalry from the flanks, maybe send the cavalry all the way over there to just kind of finish up this engagement, or maybe start moving in here, because there are plenty of gaps where they can rear charge into the back. And also, these pikemen, I know they're holding the front line right now, but you kind of almost have to start turning them in just slightly, kind of have a longer line like that and get them involved, because right now that is so much money just sitting there not doing anything. We also get a nice little glimpse here of the Silver Shields, always a beautiful unit to watch fight. And yeah, they are severely outmatching their opponents in this engagement. The Furios Spearmen literally will not, or Sephora Swordsmen on this right flank do not stand a chance. Their armor, their weaponry, their training, everything is mega inferior to them in this side of things. You can definitely see that in the quality and also in the stats. The 16 melee attack is pretty crazy compared to the 9 of the Furios units. So now the Macedonian cavalry has now wrapped around. We actually also see the spear guard forming out a little square right there, looking actually really dope. Yeah, it looks great. The Seleucid Royal Guard, so awesome. However, the cavalry is in a one-way mission to obviously go and help out on this side. I can't believe the Thessalonican cavalry. I mean, they are 4x cavalry, but still, I can't believe they're doing decently against the companion cavalry. I say that the companion cavalry is going to win, and honestly, like, this cavalry is pretty much won. I wouldn't be surprised if just doing that would be a better play. And yeah, here we go. We are now starting to see the pikemen being brought into play, which they desperately need to do. You can't just leave these units here not doing anything. You need to commit them one way or another. Does seem though that the cavalry is going to come over here and get a beautiful charge off onto the Seleucid cavalry, really engaging that, and that should be enough to really just turn the tide of this cavalry fight in their favor. That should be pretty big. We also have the cavalry maneuvering around and the pikemen as well being pushed up. However, the Silver Shields go ahead and detach themselves from that frontal engagement and charge in onto the pikemen. Gonna get some extra kills here as they try and pull back to positions. And yeah, it's just hard to use pikes in a non-single player fashion, because players can just outmaneuver it, and you just kind of have to use that to your advantage. We are seeing the general unit for Macedon rear charging into these Silver Shields, but kind of almost a bridge too far, almost committing themselves in. As you can see, there are plenty of spearmen closing off any exit point they do have, and now they're going to have to pull through a large amount of these units. It's going to take heavy casualties, and And I think we're going to see this Macedonian general unit taking an absolute pounding. We are seeing the Royal Guard now being thrown up and able to get a nice little charge off here. I don't think these pikes were actually set down, which they weren't. So these guys need to get into pike formation quickly. Otherwise, their numbers are going to drop just, you know, beyond the numbers that they can sustain, because not in pike formation, you know, these guys are pretty useless, and already they've lost over 20 men for not a single kill on the silver shields. However, the cavalry is now coming in, and this is going to be the saving grace. They are rear charging across the battle line, and that could provide them with just what they need. They need to continue to do this, though, continue to harass the enemy, continue to do damage. Does seem like, though, the infantry fight on this left-hand side has gone severely in favor of the Seleucids, even though that balance of power bar is not looking great. Able to start outflanking. As you can see, that front line of the silver shields is what's winning them this infantry fight, of course, this unit being so good. And it really, I think the battle's going to come down to just who can deal with that cavalry. Can the Seleucids stop it from just rear charging constantly and get their pound of flesh every time it tries to hammer an anvil? And maybe committing back some of these Furios spearmen to do so would not be a bad idea, as the cavalry has been able just to completely wrap up this right flank now. So even though the left-hand side has now crumbled, the Macedonians have done exactly, you know, what they need to do with that cavalry on this side, ripping through these units. Going to be freeing up a lot more men to send in, and now you can start to play a bit more passive with these pikemen, get the pikemen set up just to secure this flank, and then obviously just push them forward, use the cavalry to harass the enemy. The only downside is they don't really have any archers left, which is going to be pretty deadly at this point in the battle, as another cavalry charge comes in, and that's enough to rout this unit of light melee infantry. The Furious swordsmen being sent packing, and the Macedonians are going to be moving back to try and reform. Problem is, though, there is still a lot of Seleucids still left remaining. Like, they don't have the cavalry advantage, and they have a lot of these crappy missiles will rout on charge, but they still have units, you know, and it's going to be up to the Seleucids to try and catch them off guard. In a battle like this, they're going to need to just try and push their front line up, and then as the Seleucids try and reform to avoid the pikemen, that's when they go ahead and use that cavalry. You can triple speed it for a little bit, I guess, as the Macedonians do end up just reforming. Also making sure that these guys are not going to come back from routing. Yeah, because again, this unit of silver shields could quite easily come back, so chasing them down is not a bad idea, and just basically setting up your army. Obviously, we're going to be seeing the Seleucids looking for that outflank as best as they can. The problem is, as well, is that the Seleucids have to worry about being rear charged. I imagine what they're going to do is they're going to send the archers to, like, hold the pikes in place, and then they're going to obviously outflank with other infantry, and then maybe keep a couple spearmen on the back line like that. And it's going to be up to the flank. The Macedonians are circling their prey right now, and this is really important. As the Seleucids, if the Seleucids attempt to fall back to get a better position, the pikemen need to rush them, and the cavalry needs to hit them at the same time. You can't let your opponent form up like this, and right now the Macedonian player is seizing this opportunity and making a really good idea. Oh, nice little play right there, though. The intimidation coming down. I believe that means these pikemen can't drop pikes. Let me know in the comments if that's actually true. I've never thought about that before. That intimidation skill is actually insane. Yeah, holy crap. If that actually, does that work? What does it say, actually? Let's read that. The cruelty and violence of generals' intimidation nearby cannot use special abilities for a long time. Is the pike phalanx classed as a special ability? I guess so, right? Because it's just a formation. Please let me know in the comments if that is the case, because that's absolutely crazy. I assume it is because the Macedonian player is running away. That, oh my god, that is insane. That's huge. In a battle like this, I've literally never thought of it like that, and you can tell my mind is blown. Being able to pop that ability and stop the enemy from putting down their pikes, you know, just causing them, you know, I guess the idea is that, you know, they're really just so disrupted because of the intimidation of, like, Julius Caesar or Hannibal marching towards them. They're like, what do we do? And maybe a few of the orders get lost in translation. Now we can see the final kind of cluster of fighting right now. The battlefield is an absolute mess as infantry goes in. So I imagine now the pikes will be able to get, now they can get their stuff down. So yeah, it must be must be an ability that's actually really useful to know for like a future head-to-head if me and Darren or Republic of Play ever do another head-to-head. But Intimidation, being able to basically nullify pikes, is actually pretty huge. And you can see the pikes are now pushing up, obviously going to be engaging against the silver shields, maybe going a little bit too far there. But then pikes should drop down momentarily, as you can see, and now that'll be doing some decent damage. You can see the stutter back on the silver shields, and now the Macedonian cavalry roaming around. However, nice job here, just with sheer massive numbers, being able to pin down the Macedonian cavalry. Just literally swamping them with infantry, just like Alexander used to do with his light infantry. And that's enough to really do the damage off of this cavalry. And I think we might even be seeing the Macedonian general. Yeah, he's broken. That's going to be a big debuff, scattering throughout the ranks. Did manage to get off his rally and also his raised banners on some of his infantry. But losing that general is really, really bad. And we are also seeing some of the lighter infantry very close to breaking. They've become exhausted now. Pulling back from the pikemen, of course. Not wanting to engage them from the front. And, whoa! Why the hell is this unit breaking? Yeah, finally regaining its control now. I mean, it's close. Casualties sustained for whatever reason. And the cavalry is continuing. They really need to split up this cavalry as best as they can. Have like one cavalry ready to come in here, one cav here, and one cav there. There's obviously this unit of heavy royal guard are blocking this. Nice little charge there, just trying to pick off some of these archers. And again, killing these archers is not a bad idea. They need to split up this cavalry though. They can't commit this cavalry in one go. They need to make sure that they just disrupt it, as the Seleucid player cannot cover every single flank. We also managed to get some silver shields in the side of these pikemen. This is bad for Macedon. Seems like their cavalry is being shut down, and the silver shields are slowly grinding away in the back of these pikemen, which might be enough to claim them victory, especially now the Macedonian general is dead as well, or at least routed, dead. No longer on the battlefield. I think this is looking pretty good for the Seleucids right now. Coming in more of their units. I think that morale is just going to be so big. The cavalry did manage to get a nice little charge off on the archers, and killing these units is good because army attrition is a thing in Dividiet Impera. And more of the units coming in. But I think the Macedonians just cannot hold up against these silver shields. I think they're a little bit too much. But the pikemen are so good. Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is going to be a super close battle. The cavalry's being warned off, but the cavalry's almost doing its job right, because it's dragging out two very valuable units from this fight. You can see the archers being used to engage the pikes from the front as the silver shields do their work. And there you go, the pikemen have broken. That is huge, and that's, sending a rout throughout the Macedonian line. Morale is dropping. Is cavalry about to come in for another charge against the royal guard? Luckily getting a good little embedded into that battle line, but now the spearmen will have their fun, killing a ton of these horses as they pull out. And the Macedonian infantry is just going to break now. Without that general keeping them by, I think they're in a very, very dangerous spot. A nice little cavalry charge there into some archers. Going to take a little bit of damage and probably manage to rout them, but the battle is lost at this point. The Macedonians have barely anything left, and even with this cavalry, it just couldn't be brought to bear. I think they really had to try and be a bit more micro-intensive with it and try and split it up and just try and find them avenues of attack. A nice little rear charge there, but the cavalry, that's into the back of a Royal Guard who are going to be able to withstand that charge very effectively. They form that square ability. And there you go. The battle is over. The Macedonians all break. It was a very close one in the end. But it's not like the Seleucids have a lot left. But considering they lost that cavalry fight early on, I really expected them to fall at this hurdle. Because, yeah, not having cavalry in Dividiet Impera is absolutely insane. You can see the damage, actually, the Macedonians got on that cavalry. 300, 400 kills. But again, the pikemen are just so hard to use in a multiplayer battle unless you have units to back them up. You know, you really do need a superior archer force to be able to force the enemy to come to your pikes. You need that superior cavalry to go ahead and pin the enemy in place. They had one, didn't quite have the other, and the Seleucids and their silver shield front line did a great job, and also great microing as well. So big shout out to the players. I would love to get a scenario kind of series of battles as well. I'm not sure if the people who played this battle have seen my Rise of Mordor series, but it'd be great to get some like scenario battles where casualties carry over from one battle to another in some format, and you kind of get like this story. That'd be really, really cool to see. But yeah, maybe that's something that you guys could do in the future. I'd definitely feature it on the channel. So if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you go ahead and drop a like and a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.